Prime time, prime evidence in week one that it takes all 60 minutes. Monday night in Chicago, J.J. McCarthy went from bewildered to beloved in the matter of 3 drives. The Vikes QB accounting for 3 total touchdowns in a 10-minute span in the fourth quarter, the catalyst to a 27-24 come-from-behind divisional win. CBS NFL analyst John Breech and Ryan Wilson in to add a couple to their portfolios. The game was there, so we start there. Breech, find me a buy now opportunity, a team whose stock is beginning to rise. You can take us to Chicago, you can take us elsewhere. What did you see in week one that you're buying?
Joe, I know how much you love cheese, so buy some stock in the cheeseheads. That is the Green Bay Packers. I think that was the team I was the most impressed with in week one. They had a huge showdown with the Detroit Lions, and they went out and they absolutely destroyed them. And one thing I think is interesting is that a lot of times we'll talk about how a team might be one player away from being a Super Bowl contender. Well, I actually think that was the case with the Packers, and that one player was Micah Parsons. And now that he's there, this team feels very legitimate. This was a statement game, and that statement was that the Packers might be the best team in the NFC North right now. And that's really what this feels like. It was just they dismantled them. I mean, the Lions got held to under 50 rushing yards. They could not do anything against this Packers defense, which was kind of the weak link last year. And then offensively, look, Jordan Love didn't put up huge numbers, but I did love the way he distributed the football. He threw at least one pass to 10 different receivers. So I think the Packers are shooting up.
Hey, Breech, if the Packers are one player away and his name is Micah Parsons, my team, the Indianapolis Colts, are one player away. His name's Daniel Jones, baby. No one saw this coming. And I actually wrote about it on CBSSports.com because watching his throws, going back and watching the way he played, was night and day from what we saw in New York sans the 2022 season, his first year with Brian Daboll. And I think that speaks a lot to what Shane Steichen has wanted to do here. And we know he came over from Philadelphia, and he was going to be the guy that made Anthony Richardson closer to Jalen Hurts than he currently is because he's currently in the bench. I think Daniel Jones has an opportunity to not be Jalen Hurts, but to do the things that Shane Steichen wants to do in this offense. He's insanely athletic. We just make fun of him because of the time he fell down when he forgot how to run in that long sprint to the end zone that came up short against the Eagles. But the way he played yesterday, and look, man, let's be honest. I don't even know if the Dolphins knew they had a game yesterday in Indianapolis because they still have not shown up. But he threw on time. He got the ball out to the receivers they were supposed to get out to. The run game was absolutely on point with DJ Giddens, the rookie, and, of course, Jonathan Taylor, the playmakers. And Tyler Warren might be this year's Brock Bowers. He is that good, at least in the early showing. And the defense got after it. So I think there's an opportunity here, and we can play this back probably Sunday when things go sideways for Daniel Jones. But I am excited with what Daniel Jones is doing, at least in the first viewing in that Shane Steichen offense.
Jones still dresses like a first-year analyst on Wall Street, so it works. But I would say beware the bubble there. Trying to buy the bottom tick here if we want to keep going with the metaphor. It is a fool's errand, that we know. But let's play the game, Ryan. Find me a buy low opportunity on a team.
So, Joe, you know this player well. I know this player well. I'm going with the New York Jets based largely on what we saw from Justin Fields. Again, perhaps I'm overreacting after 1 week of action, but he absolutely and wholly dismantled that Steelers defense. The run game was on point as well. Justin had a lot to do with that, but so did Breece Hall, of course. But his ability to throw the ball, I joked throughout the game, Joe. I kept calling him Ohio State Justin because he looked like what I projected him to be coming out of Ohio State when the ceiling was limitless, it felt like, and we just did not see that in Chicago. He didn't start last year, other than the fact that Russ Wilson got hurt over those first 6 games in Pittsburgh, and when he played, it looked like a lot of what we saw throwing the ball in Chicago. Week 1 in the Meadowlands was completely different, and that gives me a little interest in how this is going to play out. I think AG did a fantastic job in his first game as coach. The defense got after it. If Garrett Wilson doesn't get that ball dislodged by Jalen Ramsey in that last play, they may have ended up winning that football game. So I like the Jets a lot, and even with our guy Rick Spielman in the front office.
Man, Ryan is on the Colts and the Jets. I do not want to see the rest of your portfolio, Ryan. But look, I took the easy way here when we're talking about 0-1 teams, really, who I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens were my pick from the AFC to get to the Super Bowl. And if anything, even though they did blow a 15-point lead in the final 4 minutes, that is absolutely concerning. Other than that, I think if you are a Ravens fan, if you like the Ravens, you walked out of this actually okay because, look, Lamar Jackson was absolutely electrifying. Then you look at Derrick Henry. There's always the concerns that a running back's going to lose a step once he turns 30 and is older than that. Well, guess what? Derrick Henry absolutely has not lost a step. Yes, he lost that key fumble, but he also ran for over 150 yards. So Derrick Henry looks great. The defense, absolutely a concern, but guess what? They're not going to be playing Josh Allen every week. The schedule gets a lot easier from here on out. And because they lost this game, I feel like this team is going to be playing angry for the rest of the season. I would not be surprised if they run off 10 straight wins starting in week 2 against the Browns. So I'm buying low on the 0-1 Ravens.
I'd say Ryan prospecting on some meme coins while Breech goes with a blue chipper. Might be the cheapest we see the flock stock, to be fair. A nice buy there on Lamar. Obviously, 54 minutes of the best football I think we saw all week long, but got to get it to the finish line. Let's go player specific now, John. Where do you see a stock on the rise?
Hey, Ryan and I are on the same page here. I'm going with Daniel Jones. My jaw dropped every time he was on the field. I wanted him to take his helmet off to make sure it was actually Daniel Jones and not Peyton Manning. What were the Colts doing? The old 2-for-1? I don't know what was going on there, but it was really unbelievable watching him play. It was just, you thought maybe Shane Steichen would turn him into a game manager, but that certainly wasn't the case. He was making difficult throws. He was making plays with his arm. He was making plays with his legs. And as Wilson said, you don't know how much this means because it was against a Dolphins team that looked like they checked out at halftime. And the schedule absolutely gets tougher this week against the Broncos. But if Daniel Jones plays well again on Sunday and they're able to pull off the upset there, you got to start taking the Colts seriously. Well, I'm buying the Daniel Jones stock, and I'm taking him seriously right now.
Welcome aboard, Breech. Glad to have you. I'm going to stay in this division here in the AFC South. I'm going to go to Cam Ward in your former hometown, Nashville, Tennessee, because I went back and watched all his throws today because we like to talk about these young quarterbacks on With the First Pick, and I was blown away. Not a great stat line. I think he ended up being 12 of 28. There were so many near misses, had a couple of drops. He's throwing with anticipation like he's Tua Tagovailoa in his prime, and he's out there expecting his teammates to make plays. He's not shying away from big moments. He stood in the pocket and played big, and that's one of the knocks you had on him coming out of Miami is that he was a little too much hero ball, trying to do too much. We did not see much of that. Now, look, he got sacked 6 times, especially those 2 sacks late in the game were certainly on him, but the offensive line struggled a little bit against a really good Denver team on the road. This team feels different. It doesn't feel like the Will Levis team that struggled in the last few years. They got their quarterback, and the big questions, the knocks on him coming out, those did not show up for the most part in week 1. I expect him to get better, more consistent, and more reliable in terms of his relationship with his receivers. I was really excited what I saw from Cam Ward in week 1.
12 completions, and they got their quarterback declaration, but he is the draft analyst. Couldn't help himself from adding a recent IPO. Might be some insider trading allegations there. We'll look into it. Flip side of that coin, Ryan, where are you selling a player after week 1?
Joe, I don't want to have this conversation with you, but we talked about Caleb in the break, and I have concerns. And I love Caleb coming out. And I made all the excuses I could for him last year. Shane Waldron got fired after 6 weeks. They fired Matt Eberflus after the season. There was no cohesiveness to the offense. Ben Johnson's there. So you got the guy that we all can agree was the hottest coaching candidate the last 2 hiring cycles. And you talked about this as well. You saw glimpses of what the offense should look like. Caleb, even when he started 10 for 10, passed up some throws that I know Ben Johnson wanted him to make. The ball would have come in on time. The receivers were open. They were short to intermediate throws, and for whatever reason, he didn't do it. Can he do it? Absolutely. I want to see more of the USC on time, Caleb, and that was few and far between because those offensive lines weren't very good late in Caleb's time in L.A., but this was not a great showing. He got outplayed by J.J. McCarthy, and I don't think anyone thought that outside of perhaps J.J. McCarthy over the second half of that football game.
Yes, not going to sit here. We don't have the time and push back on all of it. J.J. McCarthy leaning into the run game is what got him into a place to complete some of those elite throws, middle of the field to Justin Jefferson, no denying that. But team game, and one team surged to the finish, the other did not. I share much of that sentiment on Caleb Williams right now, but you know me, that's a long hold. That's in the portfolio. We're not going anywhere with it. We're going to figure out what it is here over the next 17 weeks. The fundamentals not where they need to be. Breech, where are you cutting your losses?
Yeah, I'm also going with a number 1 overall pick. Wilson going with Caleb Williams. I'm going with Bryce Young. This was a quarterback who ended last season on a high note. There was a lot of optimism coming out of Carolina about how he would look this year. And the question was, Can he take a step forward? Well, guess what, guys? He did not. He took about 5 steps back in this game. And the thing is, the Panthers got to open the season against a Jacksonville defense that gave up the most passing yards in the NFL last year. Now, I know teams change year to year, but Jacksonville didn't make enough changes that Bryce Young went out and made Jacksonville look like the 1985 Bears. That is what this looked like. He completed barely 50% of his passes for barely 150 yards. And I know there was a 1-hour rain delay in there that might have thrown things off a little bit, but he has got to be better than that. And one play that really stuck out to me was a 4th down play where he threw it out of the back of the end zone. It's 4th down. You got to give someone a chance. Throw it up to a receiver. If you throw an interception, you throw an interception because throwing out the back of the end zone is an interception because it's a turnover on down. So it's just his decision making is still a little bit troubling for someone who's in his 3rd year. So Bryce Young is going to have to step it up if he wants to keep that QB job for the foreseeable future.
Trading hours officially over. Thank you, fellas. We got another money slate on the way for you this weekend on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus. And remember, for full highlights and instant analysis, join us right here when your game goes final on CBS Sports HQ.